Welcome.
This is another episode of the Defenders of Business Value podcast, a podcast where we talk about what makes a business valuable, learn the tips and tactics to increase your company's value that only veteran deal makers know. And now, here's your host, Ed Mysogland.
Welcome to another episode of the Defenders of Business Value podcast. I'm your host, Ed Mysogland, and today we are going to be talking about planning your exit in 2024. And while I've touched on this topic, a few times over the last 116 episodes, I do a fair amount of speaking. And the funny thing is that I keep on bumping into the same questions at all of these association events that I speak at. And it centers around time. And the reason I want to revisit planning your exit in 2024 is that right about now, which the recording will be coming out in early March, most business owners will have met or are meeting with their accountants to talk about their taxes. And this is a great opportunity for you to explore, is 24 the year for you to sell your business? And so what I want to do is address, some of the things that you need to be thinking about in having that conversation. Okay. So what business owners don't understand is the time it takes to sell a business. So the average time, and this is like 56%. 56% of the time, it takes between 6 and 12 months to sell a business. But let's take a step backwards. What does it take to prepare the business for sale and prepare you for the sale? Therein lies one challenge. You're talking 6 months to a year to prepare the business, get the financials in shape, get the pre-due diligence information gathered before you hit the market. And so a lot of business owners, that's a total shock. And then the other side of the transaction is the transition out. So you're talking 6 months to a year to transition out. So you got 6 months to a year at the very beginning to plan the sale. You have 6 months to a year in executing the sale. And then you have 6 months to a year in the ultimate exit and transition of your business to the new buyer. So you're talking, this could be about a 3-year process for you to exit. So you need to be in a position to understand how long it's going to take and back into your plans. So, and now that brings us to our next topic. Let's talk about clarifying your exit motivation. Why are you exiting the business? The John Warillo from Built to Sell Radio, he has a real interesting, I won't say an ebook, but let's just say an ebook that he talks about push and pull factors. So the push factors are what's driving you away from the business. And, like I was at this association meeting this past week, and it's like, I'm tired of people and vendors are just, it's just hard in 2024, trying to hire and retain people. It's just that's causing people and business owners to want to get away from the business. And then pull factors are, a lot of people want to move into retirement. And this is a little bit of a tricky situation because on moving, if you're looking at retiring, it's what are you going to do? What are you just saying, hey, I'm going to golf every day or play tennis or play pickleball every day? That's great, but is that enough to spend the last third of your life? And maybe it is. A lot of people, it is, but for most people, it's not. So there has to be something. You're kind of reinventing yourself, and that's one of the challenges that a lot of business owners don't understand is they become part of emotionally invested in their business, and so when they sell, there's a part of them that goes with that sale, and it's hard to redefine who you are and what your identity is. So you got to give that some thought on what you're going to do and why. So I would suggest, as far as this particular section, I would look at, all right, you need to do a T chart. What drives you from the business and what drives you to, post-sale attributions. So I would focus on that. The next step is you want to align your exit, the type of exit you want and the reasons for leaving. So there's a variety of different ways. And for the most part, we're in my world. Well, let's just talk about the majority of the time, either you're gifting the business, you're gifting the business or selling the business to a family member. You're selling the business to a key employee, a third party, or somebody within the firm. And so you have to kind of align your motivation as a business owner with the kind of exit you want and the kind of buyer that you want. So we have seen all kinds of business owners doing really remarkable things for the people that they're selling to, or people that, especially individual buyers. There's a lot of times you're seeing the business owner can see what got them into the business and how are they the buyer that looks just like them when they were their age. And we have seen all kinds of transactions that defy, normal, rational deal making, because they see that person and they want that person to pick up where they're leaving off. Now, I can tell you that doesn't happen all the time. It happens a lot, with key employees more so than third parties that are coming in. But nevertheless, it does happen. But my point on aligning the type of exit you want is, who is the buyer that you want? And are you looking at legacy? Okay, well, that may be your employee, your kid, other management team coming in, maybe even an ESOP. If you're looking at a business that you're trying to establish legacy, that's one thing. If you're looking to maximize value, well, third party is probably third party, and third party can mean individual financial buyers, strategic buyers, or private equity groups. And all those different buyer pools have different types of people buying. So an individual is looking at replacing you and kind of buy here, pay here thing, regardless of the debt that they're using, whether it's SBA or seller financing. Regardless, they are looking at creating earnings that'll pay their debt and get a return of and on their investment. Strategic buyers, however, they're looking at buying market share, employees, cost economies of scale, those kinds of things. And is that the right buyer? I don't know. I can tell you that through our practice and bringing strategic buyers have different ways of looking at the particular business and where they see value. And unfortunately, you have to go through the process in order to figure it out for our sell side clients. And then lastly, you got private equity groups where you have, basically two versions. One, either it's a platform company, you're the platform, and they're buying you, and then they're going to bolt on a bunch of other businesses to you to create a larger business, and then they're going to sell it. Conversely, you may be the bolt-on. They may have a platform company that makes sense that by adding you, there's economies of scale and strategic purposes of your addition to their portfolio. So again, when you go back and think about the type of exit you want, it really comes down to, who do you want to sell to? And again, you may say, well, whoever pays me the most. Well, I get that. And I can tell you that when you start receiving live fire from buyers, that doesn't really hold true. Um, Highest price may not be the best offer, and unfortunately, you just have to go through the process in order to figure that out. So next, which leads us to our financial goals, you do have to figure out valuation, and what how the market sees your business versus how you see the business. You really need to understand both. And the biggest reason behind that is that the market may not see you the way you see the business, because um, you may have just been in it for so long that you don't have the same clarity that somebody with fresh eyes looks at your business. So the risks associated with the company are considerably different. And I always, I use the example that if somebody was looking at buying our M&A shop, there's substantial risk here. I don't see it because I'm in it. So I know the people, I know who's the flight risks, who's not. I know, our lead gen and how it works. I know our relationships with our strategic partners and centers of influence. And at the end of the day, a third party coming in here, they don't have that. I mean, at all. And so there's substantial risk coming in. Now, somebody that's in our space, they would understand it, but there's still risk. So my point is that you need to get your arms around what valuation looks like to you, and then how you see it with the how you align with the market. And you can certainly get a third party appraiser, have a conversation with an M&A valuation valuation person. Most M&A shops are more than happy to kind of tell you what the market is and what's going on, and the appetite for your type of business. The next thing, you need to, as far as your financial goals, you have to get your arms around how much you need to retire. And if that's the path you're taking, it may not be what you thought. And so you have to be in a position to understand value and how you're going to receive it. Like, for example, businesses where there's a ton of personal goodwill, and personal goodwill that means the value is tied up in that particular practitioner or owner. That may be a long performance-based payout where you don't get it all at one time. So you have to figure out, okay, if I retire today and I'm going to get paid out over the next 5 to 7 years, what does that look like? And that's where it becomes instrumental in working with a financial planner to talk about what do you look like financially post sale. And then when you're planning an exit, you have to examine how much it's going to cost you to do this. The M&A advisors aren't cheap. We like to think that we bring, we pay for ourselves at least 2 times over just by virtue of taking you through a process. But, you depending on the size, I mean, you're talking anywhere from 5 to 10% of the purchase price, depending on, again, back to the size. You have legal and accounting fees. I always say that that it's good to bank on another 1 to 3% there. And so you can see if you're a smaller business, you could be paying between 8 and 15% of the purchase price in various fees. Now, while that seems like a lot, it may not necessarily be, because you got to remember the team that you align with is going to, like on our side of the shop, or our side of the deal team, we're looking at growing, maximizing the value. The accounting is looking at minimizing the taxes, and the legal is keeping you out of trouble. But my point is that you can see how by working together, those fees that are paid are certainly well worth it. So next, you have to figure out what your future role is. All right. It depends on you, really. I mean, there's a lot of business owners, especially these days, and with people not wanting to retire. I've got a partner that's, he's in his mid 70s, and he's rocking and rolling. He's one of our top producers, and he is surrounding himself with other practitioners that are helping him, continue to play a massive role in our practice. So my point is, age really doesn't have a whole lot of bearing. It has a lot more bearing to do with endurance and competency. In industries where there's a lot of change, if you're retiring, you may not be up on the latest changes, but somebody in your firm or there's ways to offset that. But my point is that, look, you may be a consultant for the firm, you may be a shareholder, for post exit, that is. And the biggest thing is, it all depends on you. I mean, the SBA came along, and there's fractional interest acquisitions going on right now, where you can stay on the cap table indefinitely. You can be paid as a consultant indefinitely, and these are all big things. So my point is that you're negotiating your future role is ideal, over and above the purchase price, or in lieu of purchase price. So you got to decide that. And then lastly, you have to decide on what's important to you. And is it maximizing the value and exiting totally, to staying with the business and betting on the come, and literally everything in between? So my point to you on this is, you just need to figure out, and again, this isn't an answer for me to make for you, but for you to make for me, is, everybody wants the huge payday so they can go, so all the risk is on that buyer that acquired the business. I get it. But more than that is, most business owners are not inclined to enjoy just receiving that huge payday and going away. I'm just telling you that the ones that we speak with, they like that they got their chips off the table, but they still struggle on what they do next, and that there's a lot of time and there's a lot of living to do, and business gave them that joy. So my point to you is that explore what makes you tick and what's your willingness and appetite post sale, because any business owner that is willing to remain for an extended period of time demonstrates that they believe in the company and they stand behind the investment that they just sold to the buyer. So look, as we conclude today, the biggest things are, you need to understand time. You need to understand how long the time it's going to take to sell the business, and you need to understand what makes you tick. Are you seeking the highest price, or are you seeking just to reduce risk? Anytime you begin down this path, I mean, and I can tell you, just exploring it, you're miles ahead of so many that just show up at my doorstep and they want to sell their business. So I applaud that you even listen to this and start thinking about the exit. As you're going about your day, evaluate what your life looks like without this business, and then kind of back into, okay, well, how can I get there? And again, there's nothing wrong. Every business owner is going to exit their business, whether it's voluntary or involuntary. And at the end of the day, I don't want to say it doesn't matter, but my point to you is that the biggest thing that I want to share with you is that you can control it if you get your arms around it and you understand you can control it. And it's just a matter of velocity. So my point to you is take the time and think about what your life looks like post sale and what it is personally. Personally, what does your life look like? Financially, what does it look like? And what does the business look like? And if you answer those questions, you can't make a mistake. And my door is always open. I'll let you know if I have to turn on the meter, but generally speaking, I'm getting these questions on a regular basis, and I'm happy to help. So I hope you enjoyed today's episode, and if I can be of any help, let me know. Have a great day, and we'll see you next time on the Defenders of Business Value.
This was another episode of the Defenders of Business Value podcast. For more episodes packed with strategies to increase the value of your business, visit defendersofbusinessvalue.com for show notes, transcripts, and free tools to start you on your journey. Subscribe now so you don't miss any future episodes.